if you want to grab a microphone, and we'll get you on screen. Folks are pouring in to see you. So if you can't see yourself, they can't see you either. We'll have to move back. There we go. And then, perfect. So we've got lots to talk about. First of all, it's been about a month since you were here last, so welcome back. I even created, look at this, I've got a fancy graphic right there. For the folks on YouTube, they can now see. They can see your name. But we had great time last time. At least I did have a great time, and we had all sorts of feedback, very positive. So thank you for coming back again. We've got I know only a short time with you, and there's so much to talk about. Anything you want to start off with? We could jump right into some things that I prepared. But we are speaking to Instagram, TikTok, we've got YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. And for anyone watching who has questions, you can use the Q&A function, you can use the chat, you can drop us messages any which way you like, and we'll try and get to you. But we've got a lot to cover in a very short period of time, so I'm going to stop babbling.
Well, you know what? I'll maybe just start by saying that we're coming out of the pandemic here again, and we're seeing our fatalities increase dramatically again, and it's very, very concerning. And I mean, each of these deaths is so tragic, and I mean, you look at the recent events in Brampton with the 3 siblings in that family, and it's even unimaginable. I tend to just not even want to talk or look there, but that's the kind of impact these fatalities have, and so that's what makes the importance of this education program. We're trying to focus on education, but also the importance of enforcement on the excessive speed, distracted driving, impaired driving, that type of thing.
And those are the things that Division 0 enforcement teams spend all their time on. It's the big four: speeding, aggressive driving, distracted driving, and impaired driving. They're huge factors for serious injury and death on our roads. And we had seen some numbers. We've had 39 fatalities this year so far, and 15 of those were just in the last 2 months. But the stats that we have in terms of the percentage of collisions versus fatalities have changed recently. We used to see a lower number per 10,000. So we're seeing behavior trends that are changing the outcomes of our collisions.
Well, and those numbers, 39, are very, very significant. I mean, as of just Monday, we had 43 homicides to this date in the year and 39 traffic fatalities. So it's a very, very significant issue, and we got to do our best because it's a crash. It's preventable. These deaths are so preventable, and we got to do more to make sure that we can reduce those numbers.
And we do that. I mean, the focus of every traffic officer is to make the road safer every time we go out there. And a lot of folks don't like getting tickets, but we're there to issue tickets so that we can change behavior.
Well, we're all out there driving every day, and we're seeing some of this behavior. I mean, you cannot be driving in the GTA each and every day and not witness poor driving behavior that's putting the individuals operating and other people around them in danger.
With the Division 0 enforcement team, who are doing amazing work, they write a tremendous number of tickets, and it's not because they're just finding random people doing random things. They're finding people who are choosing to break the law, driving in a manner that leads to that serious injury and death on our roads. And I think it's did you know it's somewhere, I don't remember the number, but maybe you do, a percentage of the number of tickets that they're issuing that happen to be focused on speed and aggression. I think it's.
I don't remember what that number is. I know the Division 0 team is doing well over 40% of all our enforcement in the service, and that's a very small number of people, but dedicated solely to traffic enforcement and each and every day when they go out. So, but it is a very significant number. But I just don't have that one.
I think it's about 80% of the tickets that they're writing. 8 out of 10 tickets are focused specifically on speed and aggressive driving, and so many of the collisions that we see are based on that. Let me see if I can. I think I've got some information here. Let's see here. I'll see if I can find it, but I know that speeding is our number one issued ticket. Now. We talk about the fact that we've had 31 or 39 collisions, and that homicides are very closely in the numbers. We get accused of not being real police officers because we're just dealing with traffic. And why do we bother with all these little things when we can just let people do what they want? We should focus on gun crime.
Well, I mean, well, quite frankly, that statement's ridiculous. And you're very much investigating some of the most serious offenses that are happening out there in terms of some of the traffic enforcement, the collisions, the impaired driving, the traffic reconstruction. When I was in the homicide squad, a couple of the outstanding officers I worked with, their primary background was in traffic enforcement, and they made exceptional homicide investigators, and that's because of the nature of the work that they do. So, and then it was just yesterday we had a traffic officer that was doing a traffic stop, and the individual got out of the car, and a shell casing fell out onto the roadway. Wow. And the individual was detained, and a loaded firearm was in the car. So, this is the type of work they're doing all the time. So, that kind of comment is ridiculous, and it's an aspect of policing that is vital, and in my view, and it's a point I try to make in the organization with all our membership, it's a core responsibility. And a lot of this behavior, these deaths, are preventable if we're actually, we're trying to provide as much education as we can, but enforcement is an important piece of that, because that's what people ultimately will respond to.
Sadly, because we'd prefer never having to write a ticket if people would follow the rules of the road and not put others at risk. But because they're choosing to engage in the behavior, we're in a position where we have to respond. And getting tickets does amazing things. Not only does it make you feel not so great when you get a ticket, so you remember that bad, situation of I don't want to pay this and my insurance rates go up and all that sort of jazz. But it also tracks that behavior for long term. Someone who's habitually driving dangerously, we need them to lose their license.
Yes. Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's very concerning. I'm a little, quite frankly, I'm concerned, Sean, we were talking about earlier, about some of the motorcycles we're seeing out the road. And the operators are not, they've removed the plate on the bikes, or they're concealing them. And, this is a very, very dangerous activity, and these individuals are doing it deliberately. And so we're working with government to actually change that legislation. So we're going to have some more, we're hoping to, and with the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police and government, to see if we can actually change the legislation to make it much more severe in terms of those individuals engaging that kind of activity, because it's very, very dangerous. And we're seeing the motorcycle fatality, those numbers are increasing, right? So.
I would have thought that there'd be more deaths based on the way that the drivers are taking, the riders, I should say, are going on. I mean, they're doing a couple of things. They're speeding excessively. They're creating incredible amounts of noise because many of them have modified motorcycles. And there's issues with cars that are modified that are making too much noise too. But with some of the aggressive behavior, it's just a matter of time until those people get hurt.
Exactly. I mean, in and out of traffic, doing wheelies on the roadway, and then anytime an officer tries to engage them, they just speed away recklessly. And so, the legislation needs to be changed so that the consequences for that kind of behavior are severe. And that's what the goal is now. And we'll engage some specialized resources, but that's going to become a significant priority for us, I can tell you that.
And anything that makes our roads safer is working to protect communities. It's not just about folks who are. We just talked about it a moment ago, but with homicide rates being similar to traffic fatalities, it's amazing that many people think that we should invest more resources into the criminal side of it, and they don't see the value in the traffic side of it. So when you look at it and you see the numbers so similar. Tragic loss of life is tragic loss of life, regardless of the means. And we have the ability to make significant change clearly through traffic enforcement.
Yeah, I mean, each of the deaths is equally important. It's equally tragic, and then it's the repercussions to everyone that is around that individual that's been lost. The impact of that death is incredible, and so we sometimes we lose sight of that. It just becomes a name in the paper or in an event. There's just an incredible impact on so many people when that happens, and it's so unnecessary, right? So if we can, that's why the importance of changing, driver behavior is vital, and it puts us all at risk with some of the most dangerous of the people out there.
Looking at some of the numbers, we've had so far this year 114,000 or so tickets issued in the city of Toronto. That's a lot of people who are choosing to not pay attention to the rules.
Well, and like you say, over 53,000 of those are for speeding, 25,000 for aggressive driving, and then the ubiquitous person on the phone while they're operating. And they've got every excuse in the book. I see them all the time while we're operating as well, right? Trying to hide it, trying to seat it down here. But you can see the behavior when people are really getting involved because you're driving and they're not driving the speed. You can see them moving out of lanes. I mean, it's so obvious. You pull up beside them, they're on a phone.
I often think they're drunk.
Yeah, exactly. They're exhibiting the same type of characteristics, and well over 5,400 of those type of tickets as well so far this year. So, and they are a focus.
Speaking about speed, well, there's two things. Someone had actually written in asking if the chief ever parks and does speed enforcement when you're not busy.
Well, no, I don't park and do speed enforcement because, quite frankly, I seldom have the time to park. But I can tell you that when we are operating, we do get engaged in pulling people over. I have a security officer with me, and we drive. And actually, recently we've impounded a couple of cars on the 407 because of just absolutely ridiculous driving behavior.
And many, going back to speeding, many people think that our speed limits are too low. That they think they need an Autobahn, and we should raise the speed limits because, frankly, they need to get to where they're going.
Well, I think the speed limits are pretty good to what we have, and I think there's a lot of discretion in terms of the speed of the roadway on our 400 series highways that is actually very reasonable, and so that people can drive at a comfortable and safe speed. But those are not the issues. Those are not the problems. The problems are created by those that are driving excessive speed, very, very aggressively, in and out of lanes, traffic, cutting people off, and one of the things that I am really bothered about is when I see officers, quite often they're OPP officers parked on stopping on the 407, and people are not moving out of the lane adjacent to the stopped police car as they are required to do. And I just find that annoying. And quite often, if I'm out there, we will take an opportunity if we see one of those flagrant violations of that to stop that individual as well. And they're not even aware, unfortunately, of the legislation, but they have a responsibility to be aware of it if they're going to operate a car on the roadway.
And that's specifically the slow down, move over. You need to give police, fire, ambulance, or even tow trucks that have their lights active working on the roads. That's our office. That's where we have to go to help people. You have to give them space to do that. They have to move over a lane and give them that clear space.
You drive through southern Ontario. There's a number of bridges dedicated to OPP officers that have been killed making traffic stops on the side of the roadway. There's a purpose for that law there, and people need to pay attention to it. And we're looking at other different ways to enforce that provision more effectively as well.
Anything to keep our colleagues in law enforcement safe, our colleagues in fire and paramedics. Again, we're just people trying to help people, and we're being put into unnecessary risk situations because folks don't do what they need to do. You mentioned the gun being taken by off the road by a member on a traffic stop, but we actually have a huge number of traffic or criminal offenses that are arrests are made for on the road. To some degree, there's folks who choose to break the law and they happen to drive because most people use that method of transportation. But in terms of impaireds and fail to remains and all sorts of criminal offenses taking place, just under 2,000 of those were handled by the service.
Yeah,
and that's year to date.
Well, and it goes back to the original question about traffic cops, real cops. This is the work that's being done all the time. And every time you stop an individual for an offense, there could be reasons why the person's driving that way. That may not be that they're just simply driving unsafely. They may have something else going on and some type of criminal enterprise. So this is the reality. And it's also the value of making sure that we're out there monitoring that behavior and actually engaging the public to make sure that they are operating appropriately and safely. But inevitably, we're going to have that type of success, quite frankly, and that's what it is. This is not a one-off thing where the officers are getting the guns like that. You're seeing that across the city on almost a daily basis throughout the GTA, and officers are stopping people for offenses, and they're finding loaded firearms in the vehicle.
It's very scary. It's scary that there's that many out there, that we're finding so many of them. We've talked about a lot of things, but something that's coming up really soon is back to school.
Yes.
And we're going to have some of our most vulnerable people, members of our communities, that are going to be commuting to and from their local schools, which is exciting. And it also is time to talk about some safety tips and things of that nature. We've got a launch on the 7th, and we're going to start a campaign, and that's exciting. Is there anything you'd want to discuss in advance of that?
Well, yeah, actually, we do that every year, and we will be doing it again this year, and it's vitally important. But I think, as we talk about that, maybe some people, do they question why we want to do it? It's just the kids going back. Well, it's a very important time. And statistically, what we've seen in 2022 is we've had over 1,500 accidents within 100 meters of a school.
That's wild.
Right? And so when you think about it, and the primary time when those accidents are happening are between 3 and 5 p.m. So that's when your kids are out on the road, right? And so the reality is there's reasons why we do these programs, to bring it to the attention of the public. There's focus, and then to let them know as well, we're going to be paying attention in those areas in particular, right? So don't be surprised if you're driving inappropriately and someone's handing you out a ticket. You've been forewarned. This is a dangerous area, over 1,500 accidents within 100 meters of a school so far this year in 2022. And like I say, that the primary time for that is between 3 and 5 p.m. We want to protect our children. And when parents send their kids off to school, they want them to be safe.
That's like 1 in 25. That's wild numbers. So obviously we want people to use extra caution with schools, and plan ahead and use alternatives if you can. But be courteous. This is about being a good neighbor. I mean, this is old school talking. But it's your friends, it's your family, it's the community that you live in. If you're going to be driving around a school normally, and think about how you want people to be driving around to protect you and your family. If everybody around you is somebody you care about, and you can put that into framework, maybe we can change some behavior.
Yeah, no, precisely.
I know you've got to get going for a funeral, which is some sad news. One of our auxiliary members has passed away, and he's a huge loss for the service. So I don't want to keep you too long, but is there any? I want to just quickly have a look and see if we've had any big questions that have come in that we could talk about. Let's see here. Having a quick look. Okay, we covered off the issue. We had a microphone. Someone was saying we weren't loud enough. We covered that.
Can I just jump in there for a minute, Sean? You were just talking about the funeral that I'm going to here later, and it's Bob Clements, 30-year auxiliary member, was an inspector for us. But, for all the people that see us at different community events, and you see our old vehicles, the old Blinky, the old Caravel that we operate around, Bob used to look after those, and quite often was driving them at many of these events. So he's just been, and this is all volunteer contribution time, and did that for 30 years. Just a tremendous individual. So it's just it was such a big loss for us.
He's someone that I've known over the years, because I started with the service as an auxiliary member, and I saw him everywhere, and just a nice man, it's someone that we're all going to miss.
Yeah, these people that they want to get back to the community, and they're just outstanding people.
Absolutely. Well, I won't be able to attend, but if you don't mind sending condolences on my behalf.
I'm there on behalf of the service, so absolutely.
Well, thank you very much. I will let you get back to going, unless we want to talk about anything else. I don't want to keep you, because I know the traffic is going to be interesting.
Yeah, yes, we get up there. As always, it's always at opposite ends of the city when I have to go up there. No, listen, I enjoy doing this, Sean. It's a great program. You're doing a great job with it, and I want to thank the team for the work, and I want to thank the public for tuning in. Education is such a key component, and as Sean said earlier, we would rather educate people than have to give them a ticket, right? Unfortunately, sometimes the ticket is what's required. and that's what provides the true learning. But if we can do it through education, we'd be much happier to do it that way.
Absolutely. I'd love to see some positive ticketing. And actually, we recently received a letter from an 11-year-old member of the community who has some questions about traffic. And, well, it's amazing that we've got young people who are reaching out to us now to express their concerns for safety on the roads. And it's actually emotional to read the letter that she wrote. We'll share it with everybody at another time.
Well, given that generation, the questions are probably very technical. So considering I'm from a different generation, I'm going to let you answer those questions.
Sounds good. All right.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thanks again, Chief. Take care. Okay. We'll let the chief do his thing, and we'll get back into our regular routine. We'll answer your traffic and police questions live. I know that the chief had a limited amount of time to spend with us today, but he'll be back. He'll do this again, which is amazing, like really amazing. All right. How often does that happen? Not often. This is the third time he's ever joined us on the show, and it's always a pleasure and an honor to be able to host him. Okay, give us a second. I'm going to play a quick song while I get my notes ready for things I got to talk about. So here's the traffic song for your listening pleasure. As I smash the
Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely helps the traffic flow. Watch for pedestrians, look out for bikes, and don't drive like a jerk that no one likes. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely is the way to go. Put down your cell phone, nobody needs you to text and drive on the DVP. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Stop at stop signs, look both ways, then go. Seatbelt, save your life indeed. And watch your driving, don't speed. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely is the way to go. Don't drink and drive or smoke some weed, because you might go to jail and not get freed. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely helps the traffic flow.
And perfect timing at the end. I got everything ready to go. I hope that you enjoyed that. I apparently had microphone volume. I say this and I joke about it, and then I make it true. Every time I have the chief on, something technologically fails. And usually it's user error. At least it was on the first, and this time. I didn't have the mic on for the chief loud enough, so you heard a faint chief on my microphone instead of his microphone. Listen, I say these things out loud. I'm not going to hide them. I made a boo-boo. Sorry, Chief. All right, here we go. You can still hear him, but I understand it was too quiet. We'll see if we can fix that in post when we make the replay available of the YouTube channel. And you know what? We don't have a YouTube or TikTok studio going. So for the folks who said, you only see half the Chief's face, we're trying to work on that. We look forward to the day when we can get a full view set up properly, and maybe that'll happen sooner rather than later as we move into better technology and better space, and we'll see what we can do. We want to make it the best viewing experience for you. All right, we're going to move on. We'll talk about Vision Zero enforcement team. We talked about it briefly with the chief in terms of some of the numbers, the amazing work that they're doing. But where are they today? Well, they are in 31 Division and 55 Division. Those are the neighborhoods of Black Creek, Humbermead, Glenfield, Downsview, the Beaches, Riverdale, Danforth, East York. Those are the real communities, right? And that's the people that are being helped today. That we change driver behavior through enforcement, and we change driver behavior through education. And as the chief said, we'd rather never give tickets. Actually, I think the chief said what I said, which was we both said it. Let me pass these over here. I got Sergeant Campbell joining me in the studio, and that microphone is this microphone, so we'll get that up to speed. Are we standing or we're sitting? What do you think, Sarge?
I don't know, Sean. I'm okay like this for a little bit.
Okay, let's keep it going. We stand up when we can, then sit down when we can, and change it up all the time. And sometimes it's comfortable, and sometimes less so.
So how How was your discussion this morning?
It was good. We talked about some great stuff, and it's fantastic that we have the support of the chief, not only in what we do here in social media, but in traffic in general, because he's a strong believer of traffic safety, and he brought up some good points, like the fact that our homicide rates are on par or very, very closely with traffic fatalities. It's remarkable that they're so close.
Yeah, actually, it's sad. It really is sad.
Sad is a better word. Yeah. I agree. And with that, we do our best, but we need the public to do something too. We need the public to change their behavior. The ones that break the law anyway. The majority of people are doing the right thing all the time. And if you drive safely, thank you so much for doing that, for contributing in a safe way. I don't know any better way to say it, but you're working to keep the road safe by doing the right thing. So if that's you, well, thank you very much. And we appreciate you. And for the people who are working actively to make it less safe, I'm less impressed. That's no other way to put it.
Yeah, it makes our job a little tougher because we have all these people that are out there that are not doing it safely. And we're out there to change their behavior and stop it, make it safe. That's the end goal.
Yeah. We see too many people losing their lives, losing loved ones, and as the chief said, every life is important. Every loss is tragic, and at the end of the day, it's all we want to do is make the roads safe. All right, we got here. Let's see here. I got Joey watching from LinkedIn. He's a good friend, and he's down in Atlanta, Georgia. Last is he still in Georgia? But he watches. Oh, he's in Tennessee now. But he'd like me to read up on Tennessee law so I could help him out. We've got Jacob who shared the live on Twitter. Thank you, Jacob. I'm just catching up with some of the messages. We got Leo wife, my wife, who was watching, and I have ignored since 9:30. But good morning, and I'm sure the kids are there. Good morning, kids, to you too. We got Sean Chen, and we've got Angela. We've got Q. Who else we got here? We've got Kayla, and so many others. I'd love to read everyone's message, but I want to jump in to some questions. So let's see. How long does a warning stay in the system? This is an interesting question. We've talked about it before, but we'll talk about it again because that's what we do here. Warnings. Sarge,
warnings. Warnings are are held in the Toronto police system. They're not held in the ministry system like convictions are. But those warnings are available for other enforcement agencies to view. We have access to their systems, and they have access to ours. So they are a permanent record that are in there.
It's part of our notes, and we've got to keep those. We're actually required to keep them, and that is really helpful, because if you get pulled over and we gave you a warning because we were decided not to charge you, we're going to give you that warning and use officer discretion. We're still making a note, and that helps the next officer if you're doing the same thing. Apparently, TikTok just is having some connecting issues. Oh, we're back. It's really important. It really is important to make record of interactions like traffic stops. If an officer decides to give you that chance to change your behavior without a ticket, take it, because we will see the warnings later. Okay.
Yeah, but take it and change your behavior.
That's it. All of
so
these
we don't see the warnings later. So we don't have the opportunity to stop you later.
Well,
and see it.
You make a positive change, and you never need to get a ticket if you make that change. I mean, some things happen. Sometimes you have a driver error, but the stuff that is decided based on behavior, like speeding, you can make that change. Okay. Now what do we have here? What is the maximum speed allowed to go over without a ticket? So it's funny, the chief actually mentioned that, and he said that he thinks there's an appropriate amount of discretion that's employed. And I got to say, there's a lot of discretion, because people always ask about what's legal. Well, it's not legal to go anything over the speed limit. Whether or not you're pulled over and charged is a different story, and it depends on the officer. I might pull someone over for less than another colleague, because that's their prerogative. And I'm, very aggressive about enforcement. I think it needs to be done, and I don't think anyone should be speeding. But I think there is a healthy amount of discretion, as the chief said. Is there a number? No. I can't give you a number because there is no static number that everyone adheres to. Did you have a specific number when you were on the road, Sarge?
No, it all depends on the on the situation, the location. You know what? If you were 5 kilometers over within a school zone while kids are out playing, that's a much greater risk than you're 5 kilometers over on a controlled access highway. The risk is lower, but the result could be the same. The higher the speed, the more catastrophic a collision can become, and the worse the injuries. So I don't have a number, but I certainly pay more attention to the higher risk ones.
Might Be Midas says, do you think the government should increase the speed limits? I don't think so. I think our speed limits are fine, and I think that people break the law significantly with the current speed limits, and if you increase the speed limits, you'll have people continue with that same gap that they use to measure how much over they think they can get away with, and we'll just go faster, and we'll see even greater issues on the road.
You know what, Sean? Some of the highways within the province now have a maximum speed of 110 kilometers an hour, and that was done as a trial to see the results of collisions and damage and injuries and commute times and all positive and negative to see the results of that. Well, I can tell you from personal experience, because I travel one of those sections regularly when I'm heading up north, where was thought to be an acceptable overage then becomes 10 kilometers above that. So if 110 was thought to be the acceptable by the motoring public, which is not, it now becomes 120 or more. And
You get into serious stuff.
yep, you know what? If you're programmed to think that it actually is okay to speed, to break the law, then you're going to think it's all right, and then you're going to take that proportionally to the next time the government says, okay, we hear what you're saying. You want to go a little bit faster. Let's try it out. Let's see if it's safe. Let's see how it is. But unfortunately, the people are going to ruin that because they're going to travel even faster.
This is
causing
why
more
we
wrecks.
can't have nice things.
There you go.
It's true. It's because people ruin it for others. If people didn't break the law, there'd be no tickets to issue. If people, maybe they decide that it's safer, and maybe they would increase but we can't play nice with the rules we have, so why would we increase them? We have a question from AHA 9601. Says, why are driving offenses so serious? I'm currently being charged with drive disqualified. What does that mean? Well, drive disqualified means you were suspended in relation to a criminal code offense. So maybe impaired driving. What else could trigger a drive disqualified?
Dangerous driving.
Dangerous driving. So now you're suspended on a criminal code conviction, and you're still driving, meaning you're still choosing to break the law, just in a different way. And if you're being charged, that's what that means. Now they have a follow-up question saying, also, why are driving-related charges worse than they used to be? Like, I know when people have many DUI charges when I have a few suspended license tickets. But the punishment for my driving offenses is more serious. Why is that? Well, the increase in the consequences is generally because the belief from the makers of law don't think that people are getting the message with the consequences that were originally available. So they increase them to make it more impactful on the people who are breaking the law, hopefully to dissuade them from breaking the law. I think that's the reason that it's happening.
I would totally agree with you. You know what? The laws are in place because obviously it happened at one point, and the government says, well, we need to make a rule about it to help people to stay safe. And if people are ignoring that, then we have to make a rule that has more consequences to make it safe.
It's funny. It makes me think of how rules in organizations and companies, like the rule that says clean out. I'm just trying to think of a rule like people at every work environment do things that we would have never thought possible. And then there's a rule made about it. So it just takes one person to do something really silly for a rule to be made for everybody. Well, here's a great example: stunt driving laws. Stunt driving, was put into place because of certain behavior, and the increases of the consequences were put in place because of behaviors of a specific group. These takeover groups were instrumental in having stricter laws in place because it became apparent that there was a bigger problem than once believed. So, yeah, we're saying the same thing. We're just saying it twice. What do we have here? I'm on my provisional license. I live in Australia. Can I still drive in Canada? If your provisional license is the equivalent of RG2, which means you're allowed to drive alone, then likely yes. But you should check with the MTO before you come across, just to make sure. But I do believe that you could. I drove when I was in Australia. Mind you, I had a full license back then. Yeah. Any thoughts on Australia driving? Or-
You know what? I don't know the rules with provisional licenses there. If a provisional license here, which we call a G1, is a learner's permit. It's not really a license to operate a vehicle. It is it is there for the purpose of learning. Yes, you can learn when you're going into a different country, but it's not actually a valid license there.
So for us, our G1s aren't valid outside of the province, and people who have learners permits that need to be escorted aren't valid here. But I was making the assumption that it was a conditional or a license, a probationary license similar to that of a G2. If that's the case, if you're allowed to drive alone and you're over 16, then you would be allowed to drive here. But if you are in a learner's permit situation where you have to be supervised, you would not. But I'm assuming based on the fact that you're traveling, I'm making the assumption that that's what we're talking about. Confirm with the MTO before you come over. Actually, I would go so far as to say most rental companies would not rental you a vehicle if you don't have a proper license. But you never know what kind of mistakes get made.
Well, you know what, Sean? Sometimes rental car agencies over here don't know any better.
True.
And I was just recently overseas, and I handed them my driver's license, and they took it. And I went, "Oh, I just had a birthday, by the way, and here's my temporary to go along with it." They didn't even look. They didn't even see it was 2 weeks expired.
And it was really your library card, and they just said, "Go ahead, take a car." Here's a question: could my kids sit in a booster seat in my truck if the airbag is not on? So the deal is that the position within the vehicle isn't regulated. Instructions for your car seat might. Boosters. Well, here's the deal. We suggest back seat until 14 years old because it's the safest option, not because it's legally required. So could your kids sit in the front? Yes. Airbag being off, better, because airbags can be very dangerous for young people, for small people of smaller stature. It's the safety concern. If you're talking about legal, though, you'd be legal. Even if the airbag was on, it's just not a good idea.
You know what? We have cars that are like trucks that maybe only have one front seat in it, or two-seater sports cars, or delivery vans, stuff like that, where you don't have an option to put a child in the front seat. Unfortunately, that is not the safest place for them to be, but there's no regulation stopping you from doing that. As long as they're within the booster seat and you're in conforming and they're secure there.
Here's a question. Is an imported car USDM emissions exempt? I don't know what USDM is. Do you know what USDM is?
I don't.
I don't know. We have to have that question rephrased because I'd love to answer it. I just don't have an answer for it. And maybe we can see if the chat has anything that pops up, because we have a wonderful community of people who know stuff, and someone might jump in and say something, but they haven't done it yet. I want to cover something off that Chase asked, and he was asking, why did the chief have a white shirt? And that is because senior officers have white shirts. So if you have the rank of inspector, superintendent, or inspector, staff inspector, inspector and above, all the way up to chief, it helps to identify the rank.
You may also notice that his shoulder flashes and his epaulets were also gold,
Fancy.
Which we don't have for our non-senior officers, and it just differentiates people.
Yeah, the idea is in a situation where you have people and you don't know, well, within the service you would, but especially within other services, you want to be able to make it easily identifiable for rank. Who the bosses are. Let's see here. We have a bunch of different stuff. How do I argue a speeding ticket?
You can argue with your ticket all you want, but it's still a ticket.
Yeah,
I don't think it's going to argue back.
It does not respond. If it does respond, there are other issues afoot. The deal is that you have the right to disagree. It doesn't mean that you're innocent. It means that you have the opportunity to challenge that ticket in court. If you're truly guilty, you're guilty, and you could probably just save yourself and the community a whole lot of time and money by taking responsibility and paying it. If you really believe that you are innocent, that you are you've been charged and you're not guilty, well, by all means, take it to court. That's what it's for. But be prepared to bring evidence. Please don't be one of the people who just plays games and tries to do the wait and try and avoid the officer, because so many people waste so much time. But that's the deal. You have that right to take it to court. It doesn't go away, and very often you're convicted. Anything to add on ticket fighting?
You know what, Sean, I was saying there are a number of charges where the onus is placed on different parties to prove an offense. Our Highway Traffic Act, for the most part, it is the responsibility of the police or the person who's charging to present the evidence in court, proof beyond a reasonable doubt. There are a few offenses which are a reverse onus, and it is the responsibility of the person that's charged to prove that they were or weren't doing that. So what happens when when you decide to go to court? We will come with the evidence to prove that it was you did the offense, you did it at this location at this date and time. We wouldn't issue the ticket unless we had all those. There are occasions where you may be able to argue some of that. If it wasn't you, if it truly wasn't you, you'd be able to argue that. And that's what the court process is there for.
I got a question saying, PC Shapiro, would you give Drake a speeding ticket or would you ask for a selfie? Yeah, he could take a selfie with me, but I'd still give him the ticket. I mean, if he wants it for his social media, because I'm TikTok famous. I got recognized. Yeah, I went to a store recently, and I was recognized going into the store. Hey, you're Toronto Police. I watch you. So, yeah, Drake can take a picture with you if he really wants to, but he's still getting a ticket for speeding if I catch him. Okay. Sorry, I entertain myself far too much. Can an officer run radar while parked on private property or in a business laneway? Yeah, that's a good question for you, Sarge.
Yeah, absolutely. Why not?
We're lawfully there.
Yeah.
If it was private property with a gate, then we shouldn't be on it because it's private property with a gate and we can't get in. But if it's access that's open, we can be there.
And just remember that the roadway is from fence line to fence line or property line to property line.
Mm-hmm.
Your property doesn't usually start on a 2-lane road. It is usually 33 feet from the center line of the road where the private property starts, usually. Other roads have different, but as a general rule of thumb. So you've got 33 feet to be able to sit and do whatever you want in a public space. And there's an awful lot of times where I have been, where I've actually parked in somebody's driveway, maybe on their property as well, and they've come out and thanked me for being there, for slowing the people down in their neighborhood, to making them feel safer.
For sure.
I very rarely get any pushback from people when I'm trying to help them.
And that's the whole thing. We're there to serve the community. The person who's racing through, it may not be happy with us, but they are not the priority here. The priority is the community we're protecting. So very positive. I've always been thanked. I've had people come out with lemonade, trying to thank us. It's not required, but it's always very nice when people do things or even acknowledge that they're happy with us being there. When at a red light, can a motorbike ride up between the two rows of cars to get to the front, aka filtering? Not a good practice, not a safe practice. I see it all the time. And there's no law that specifically states that it's illegal. However, careless driving could be the result of that. Certainly when traffic is moving, that would be the appropriate charge. What are your thoughts on it, Sarge?
Yeah, I know it's legal in some other jurisdictions. High density, high volume areas, they're allowing more economical modes of transportation to get in front, kind of like our high occupancy vehicle lanes or our bus lanes are trying to do as well. I don't like the practice because you're not expecting it. You're in a car, you're occupying the lane, it's your lane, you kind of own that space while you're in it, and if somebody else is coming in, you're not expecting it. I've seen collisions happen. I've seen people get hurt because of it. So not a fan, but most times the people that are doing it are making other driving behaviors as well that would cause them to be pulled over.
Yeah, on its own, maybe less of an issue, but when combined with other behaviors, could become one. And here's the thing: it's the totality. If we're watching something that looks dangerous, that is dangerous, or results in a collision, well, if you're not where you're supposed to be and something happens, you're going to be held responsible for it. So there's risk involved. You might be doing it to be safer, or at least that may be your goal, and it may not turn out that way. So be wary of the choices you make because you may be held accountable for them. Can I use a retractable tint that is more like sunglasses for the windshield of a car? So not affixed to the car, but in front of the car. That would still be, it may not fall under truly tint. It'd be obscure driver view. So,
sorry, you're going to put something that is removable that's going to block your view at the front?
A retractable tint, sort of like sunglasses. Not affixed to the window, but in front of the window between you and the driver, or the driver and the window.
No.
Obscure it would be obscure, I would imagine.
Absolutely. Well, obscure the interior, but no clear view to front.
Well, obscure driver's view, no clear view to front. That's where I was going with this, not the interior. Although it would still also work for the interior.
Absolutely. Can't see your face because you put a dark thing right in front of your face.
Now, I see truck drivers with a fold-down visor, similar to that of it's a visor. It's a sun visor, and I've seen them transparent. And are we hunting for these? Not particularly, but is it an offense if you committed an offense by blocking your vision? Yeah. So there's reasons for it. Wear sunglasses.
Yeah. Why would you want to block your vision?
Well, I think there's a belief that the sun is in their eyes and they don't want to wear sunglasses.
Well,
I'm assuming. I do not understand these things. I just wear sunglasses. And now, many people have said sunglasses are expensive. Sunglasses can be had for $10 actually probably less than $10. We're talking fancy ones are expensive, but not so fancy ones are less so.
So you're going to put a piece of plastic or a piece of metal or a piece of glass in front of you on a frame that's movable in front, and then you're going to block your view with that frame, and it's going to come flying at you when your airbag comes off, and cause serious damage to probably your face, because it's going to be right in front of your face.
Bad things can happen.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a good thing to do at all.
What is this? Are Polo police allowed to conduct a traffic stop on a vehicle while on private property? What is Polo police? I don't know what the question is. And then there was a question about MTO being separate police, or are you guys working hand in hand with them? So the Ministry of Transportation they have officers that work specifically on behalf of the MTO, and they enforce the HTA. Are they partners? They're road safety partners. Do they work directly with us? They do their own thing, but we do work on projects together.
And they are special constables, so they are peace officers in the province of Ontario for enforcing certain acts, the ones that they're allowed to enforce.
Ginger Rogers wants to know if we are, she says, hi there, do you have other Ask a Traffic Cop subjects? So we do traffic police stuff because that's what this channel is all about, but do we tackle other questions? If there's general policing questions, very often we can address those. We have a Toronto Police TikTok, but it's not active, and we'd love to see other areas and representatives from other areas of the service come on, but it's a big investment of time to do what we do, and it's not always simple. If you've got questions, feel free to ask them, though. We'll see if we can help you out. Okay. If the speed limit is 30 kilometers an hour and there's a speed camera, will I get a ticket if I'm going 31? It could be. We don't control those. That's not a police function. That is a city function, a municipal function, and we don't know what they set theirs at, very frankly. So I would assume no, but I don't know so. What do you think, Sarge?
Yeah, no, the Ministry of Transportation, when they allowed photo radar to be enacted in the province, they didn't say anything about it, even when asked. They said no. It's up to the municipality to set it.
I got to tell you, I made a boo-boo, and I made several boo-boos last night. I set this live up, and I said the August 26th, because I was cutting and pasting a title, and I changed it to August from July, and then I didn't change it from the 26th because that was the last day. It didn't make it the 24th, so I deleted it. And then I changed it to the 24th, but then I left it as July. So I was not firing on all cylinders last night when I was preparing for bed and making sure I booked this. So thank you for Big Jeff Fresh for making me aware of the fact that I made a boo-boo. All right. Hey, how you doing? Nice hat. We have some friends visiting the studio to come say hello. Hi there. Just so you know, well, you're kind of below the level for the, I don't know if, yeah. Yeah, he's a police officer bear. And you see my little guy, that's Optimus Prime. I don't know if you like Transformers. I don't. Just so you know, they're on the internet. If you're okay with it, just. Yeah. Sorry, I need 2 minutes to talk to these gentlemen. What's going on, guys? I see you're a junior officer. I got to turn my microphone here.
I don't know, Sean, can we drop the desk down a little bit? So
Yeah,
the camera
actually,
goes down?
we could.
Do you guys want to be on TikTok?
Yeah.
Well, go stand with Sean, the police officer,
Okay.
and look into the camera.
So, and this is a microphone. You can say hello, but we have to be polite. We can't say anything that's not nice.
Me first.
You guys want to say hi?
Hi.
How are you doing?
Good.
Are you going to the exhibition today?
No.
Are you going anywhere fun?
No.
That's good to know.
And I'm going to Going to the police station.
You go to the police station? This
That's
is a
good.
police station. That's amazing.
That's got to be fun, Sean.
It is fun.
And also I'm going to the fair.
And you're going to go where?
The fair.
The fair. Okay, so you're going somewhere cool. That's all right. And did you see anything cool yet before you came to the coolest place here?
I did. What's this?
That's the microphone. You should put the cover on. It makes it better with the cover.
Okay.
TikTok, you can't see this because he's a little. But on YouTube, you can clearly see that.
Okay.
Yeah. What's your name?
Finn.
Nice to meet you. I'm Sean.
Okay.
Thanks for coming to visit. You made my day.
Yes, kind of.
You're welcome
Bye,
to say hello
guys.
too if you want to.
Hello.
Okay, take care.
No problem.
It's never. It's you know what the chief and now you just got outshone. The chief. That was awesome. Thank you, everyone, for giving us a few minutes to chat with our friends who came to visit.
We're full of guests today.
Maybe we should do this all the time. We should just have tour parties and like legit. We need more guests. We need to keep it spicy and interesting. Okay, my face hurts from smiling so much. Okay. Yeah. Can children legally ride on the back of a motorcycle? That is a great question. We've had that question a few times this week. So not that there's anything wrong with that. But the answer is yes. If their feet can touch the floorboards or pegs for the passenger, then they could legally. That being said, I want to make sure as a rider that the passengers I bring on my motorcycle are mature enough to be a motorcycle passenger. Someone who pulls to the side or feels unsafe might make maneuvers that change the path of your motorcycle, because leaning and counter leaning could be an issue. Not holding on could be an issue. You could lose a passenger. So
I was about to say, Sean, they must demonstrate that they are physically capable of remaining safe and on the bike at all times by holding on.
yes,
And I've seen some where they don't understand the consequences of not holding on. Sorry, should a maneuver happen, and that would be unsafe. I do have one.
You have water? Okay, I was coming to the. It's okay. We don't want the Sarge to have any issues, but he has waters. Well, I guess we can't. We all have issues, but ones with choking on microphones. Okay. So sissy bars, saddle, proper seats, ways. There's no seatbelt on a motorcycle, so you want to make sure for your own peace of mind that they're responsible enough to be passengers. And it was adorable. Some comments. I totally agree with you. Now we have to have kids come here to brighten our day every day. Okay. Why are the police not pulling over drivers towing trailers, boats, or full pickup in passing lane? I'm not sure why we would pull them over for towing a trailer in the passing lane. Now, in a semi, in some lanes, might be regulated depending on what the signs say. But if you're driving legally, and is there an issue, Sarge, with driving with a trailer or being in a pickup truck?
You know what? It's a rule of thumb. The left lane is for passing. If they have an opportunity to go out and pass and move back in again, like any other vehicle, then absolutely they can be. No problem at all. When I tow my trailer, I tow a little bit slower. Just for safety's sakes, I have a 25-foot travel trailer. I have a big boat trailer. I have snowmobile trailers, stuff like that. It makes your vehicle a little bit longer. It makes it handle a little bit differently, and I take a little more care with it. So I would normally stay in the farmost right lane.
I got a question for Mr. Eggman. He says, do you speak for all cops or do you speak for yourself? Well, I can speak on certain topics for the police service, for traffic services. I can speak to laws. I don't speak for all police officers. We're all individuals. When I talk about my opinion, it's my opinion, because I can't speak for the opinions of people I may not have met. So I don't know where you're going with the question, but that's the answer I got for you at the moment. Construction vehicle with amber lights on. With amber lights on, passing my car, do I need to give way to that vehicle? Construction vehicles with amber lights do not have any authority under the HTA to traffic clear. Traffic clearing lights are specifically blue and red, and usually have the accompaniment of a siren to have the addition of a musical note. And those vehicles, you're obligated to pull out of the way. Even volunteer firefighters, you don't have to move out of the way. You just become a better person through responding appropriately when they come by. Because green flashing lights for volunteer fire are to tell you to get out of the way, or at least ask you, because it's not a command.
Sean, I have an opinion on that, and it goes because I work within the towing industry. I often say, why in the world, if you're a tow truck or a service vehicle, and you're just driving down the road, why would you leave that on? So people get so used to you driving around with amber lights on.
They're meaningless.
Right. So put them on when you need the protection. Put them on when there is a hazard. Put them on when you're at the side of the road and you want other vehicles to move over and stay clear. Don't leave them on. You don't see police cars driving around with their lights and siren going all the time just because they're cruising up the highway.
Some countries, they do that. It's very interesting. In the Middle East, very often the lights are on all the time. And I spoke to some police officers and I said, why would you do that? He says, because then the criminals see us and they go away. I thought it was interesting. And not the way I would do it, but it was interesting. What is this? Can you go through a red light if you've been waiting forever? No. Red lights are red lights. Now, if it's malfunctioning, can you go through it? No, but you can make a right turn on red if it's legal to do so, unless it's signed otherwise. And that's the way to do it. And then you can make a legal U-turn where it's safe and not signed otherwise. And then you'd be able to bypass that light. And it's reasonable to do that. But running the red light, even when you've been waiting for a long time, not reasonable, not legal.
Sean, there's a specific charge for that. So if you fail to stop for a red light, that's one charge. And the other charge is proceed before green. Mm-hmm. And that's when you sit there on the red light and decide you had enough and you proceed before the signal turns green.
It's amazing. They named it just like exactly what the activity is.
That's a clue.
It's a clue. We have a silly question, according to Jake here. And the silly question, and I really don't believe that there is such a thing as a silly question, but we'll use the title. Is it legal to drive a car with a racing helmet and visor pulled down? Interesting. You're on a track, it's perfectly legit. In fact, it's going to be a requirement. Is it illegal? I don't think it is.
I would say no.
You can ride a motorcycle with it. Is it going to be cumbersome? Yeah, I don't think it's a good idea. You don't have that range of movement, but I don't think it's illegal. I've not been seeing it. So not a silly question at all. But I'm not aware of any law that would prevent you from doing that. I just wouldn't suggest it. Okay. What happens if my name is spelled incorrectly on a ticket? Well, first of all, if it happens, and it does happen, it does happen on paper tickets, less so on electronic tickets because we scan your license and it's verbatim off your license. We don't have to do any manual entry. But if there was an error, what would happen? We'd ask to amend it in court. If everything else was accurate, if your date of birth and your driver's license number and it was just a slip of the pen, that could be amended in court with the permission of the bench. So if we said, Your Worship, we made a boo-boo, but everywhere else in the ticket it's correct, they'd ask for the opportunity to amend it, and very often it is. Could be also thrown away. It's up to them. We have here, can you mention every day something about ambulances? I've yelled at people to get out of the way. Listen, emergency vehicles have a purpose. They're going somewhere to help someone, whether they have not yet reached their destination to help them or they have them on board and they're trying to get somewhere or in the place of fire or police. There's a reason we have flashing lights. Get out of the way. They're trying to save the day in their own special way. I watch too much, or I have watched in my time too much Paw Patrol. But the deal is that, get out of the way. Pull over to the nearest curb or edge of roadway. It's a requirement under law, and if you don't do it, it's, I believe, a $490 ticket and 6 demerit points. And you deserve every one of those demerit points if you don't follow the rules. Because those things could be, you could create a situation where someone dies as a result of your inaction. What do we have here? Why does TPS have 2 times as many officers assigned to mounted unit as to Vision Zero? I don't know how many officers are in the mounted unit, so I couldn't tell you if you're accurate or not. I'll assume for a moment that you are. They conduct activities beyond that of being on a horse, for one, but it's an important unit of the service. They do awesome things. Sarge, anything to add about mounted units? I don't know enough about the unit.
You know what? No, neither do I. But you know what? The staffing levels of each unit is scrutinized every year. We would love to have more officers everywhere.
Yes.
The Vision Zero enforcement team was a city-led project. It's a special project that's going out that became permanent because we saw the benefits of it. Would you like to have more officers there? Absolutely. Do we think we're doing good work there? Absolutely. Does the mounted work unit do good work? Absolutely as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? It's a great argument for getting more police officers across the board.
And guess what? We're hiring. Would you like to become a police officer with the Toronto Police Service? www.tps.ca/careers will get you all the information you need. You can even start your application online. We are looking to hire 3 classes this year, from what I understand. And the chief, not this time, but last time, spoke extensively about hiring. And we need more good people, and you could be one of those people. So apply, please. You can be a member of Vision Zero eventually. If that's your thing, you want to be a traffic officer, great. Want to be a mounted officer, great. Dog officer, canine, there's so many opportunities. This is a career with many different jobs because there's so many different specialties. You get bored, you can change.
Yep, I think this is one of the only ones that you could do polar opposite jobs, all within the one service, all within the one pension. You don't have to transfer over. You don't have to do anything. And you can do amazing stuff here.
You decide you hate giving tickets today. Okay. I want to go learn something new. Okay. There's so many different opportunities. And I started as a volunteer. The same year that I started volunteering, I became a court officer. I was involved with prisoner transportation, courthouse security. I did that for many years, and I became a supervisor as an auxiliary. I became a supervisor within courts. I then traded those 2 uniforms in and became a police officer. I've worked as a divisional primary response officer. I've worked in traffic at a divisional level here at Traffic Services. I've been in the motor squad. I've had the opportunity to do so many cool things, and it's not over yet. I've still got years in front of me, and who knows what I'll do next. But now I'm on social media talking to you. Like, who'd have thunk? Yes, I get paid to do this. I'm a social media and media relations officer. So all sorts of unique opportunities. And what other career would you be able to do different things every day?
You know what, Sean? I've done so many things in my 27 years of being around here. It's amazing. It absolutely is amazing. And so many different things that all lead back to the same thing. You know what? Stopping bad people from doing bad things.
That's the focus. And educating. There's always an educational element. Okay, what if someone drives buys a car off someone and drives with no plates and gets pulled over? Well, there's a couple of things that may be at work here. One, yes, you can legally purchase a vehicle from somebody. And if you have no plates, well, you can't drive it. And if you have no insurance, you can't drive it. So if you have plates that have an unattached status, you could use them. So if you have a plate from a previous vehicle and you have none, you can use them for 6 days, as long as the vehicle is insured before you make the application. That's something that gives you an opportunity. But there's a better option. The best option is to go to the Ministry of Transportation when you're making this sale and make the transfer right there. Get plates with a temporary sticker for you to get your safety. The vehicle has to be safe for the road. That's a big thing, regardless.
Right. The plates that you're talking about putting on, they actually have to come from a vehicle with an active status. They can't be unattached plates.
Oh, I was told that. So if I'm incorrect there, that it has to be active. I thought you couldn't have it actively on a plate. So I may have mixed it up.
You got 6 days to change it over, or else you can be fined for that. If you drive without license plates, you can be fined for that. And you know what? Those are a big clue to get pulled over. I can tell you that, it would have to go for a safety if you were driving around with no plates. Even if it was
safety equipped. Would you not have to have the safety certificate with it? That it has to be a safe vehicle.
It does. So to be able to get a temporary permit, which allows you to travel for 10 days, it has to be a fit status prior to changing it over. So the previous owner must have it as fit. They can't have it as unfit sitting on their front lawn, and then you take it out and drive it.
Because that would be not fit. But so going back to this, I just want to clarify, because when I'm wrong, I want to learn. So it's not unattached and valid status, but it has to be attached and valid.
So the vehicle you're taking it off of must be transferred out of your name. But
so that's that. So I wasn't incorrect. I just may have worded it incorrectly.
Okay.
It has to have come off a vehicle. It has to be valid.
Right.
Plates have to be live for use.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So we were on the right page.
And you still can't own that vehicle that you're taking off of. So you can't take plates off of one car and stick
yes,
them on a different car.
Because that's used plates, not
switch them back and forth.
Yes.
But you can use them as long as you have proof of the other vehicle as being taken out of your name.
Okay, so we had the same answer, just different wording, and I meant what you were saying. And
I probably meant what you're saying too.
I'm glad when we agree. It makes my heart rate go down again. I'm like, wait, what did I say wrong? No, okay, good. Yeah, wording matters. What do we got here? Can you drive an e-scooter on the sidewalk? Well, if you're in Toronto, in the city, the big smoke, the answer is no. But guess what? You can't ride an e-scooter. Now, I should clarify, e-kick scooter. That's the stand-up board. Yeah, not on the sidewalk, not on the road, not on any park path. It's private property only. Those are not permitted on the road. There is a provincial pilot in municipalities that have adopted it. And if you haven't adopted the pilot, or if you're not in the community that has, it's illegal. It's a prohibited device or a prohibited vehicle.
What about an e-bike?
E-bikes, however, if they conform to the legislation, are legal on the road and on park paths and in lanes, bike lanes, not on sidewalks in the city of Toronto. Different municipalities, different rules. There's a lot of rules. You got to know the rules, and you ought to know the rules according to the law. Thus, you are held responsible if you don't, regardless if you do or don't.
Ignorance of the law is no excuse.
Not a defense, no. There's a lot of things that you need to know about e-bikes and e-kick scooters. It's not as simple as they're legal or not legal. For instance, e-kick scooters, you must be at least 16 years, 14 or 16. See, there's a difference. Maybe it's 14 for an e-kick scooter, but it's 16 for a e-bike. I think that's the difference. Helmets are optional if you're 18 years old on an e-kick scooter, but not an e-bike. You have a maximum legal speed of 24 kilometers an hour on an e-kick scooter, but e-bikes can have 32 kilometer maximum speeds. And when we see people who modify them, they instantly come outside of that legislation if they break any of the rules. If it does 33 kilometers an hour on a flat surface, that's not an e-bike anymore. That's a motorcycle. If it does 25 kilometers instead of 24 kilometers on a flat surface, it's not an e-kick scooter. It's a motorcycle. It needs license, ownership, insurance. Put a seat on an e-kick scooter. It's a motorcycle. So many different rules. You got to know them all. And not every vendor that sells them knows the laws. For instance, I went to Costco. At Costco, they sell a 9-bot scooter that's capable of 30 kilometers an hour. That's an illegal scooter. Now, it says it's capable. I don't know if they've modified them or have them limited, but on the box it says it can do 30. Based on that, it's illegal.
You know what, John? Manufacturers put stuff out there that are not legal. Mm-hmm. You can go to Canadian Tire and buy tinted license plate covers. Imagine that. You can buy tint for your rear taillights.
No.
You can buy tint for your windshield. That's not legal, but they do sell it.
It's the use of that. It's the application and use on the road that makes it is when the offense takes place. Totally. What do we have here? Do you find it worrisome that M1 riders can drive off the lot after an M1 written test? Yes and no. I'm glad that they don't have passengers to put at risk. I got my M1. I rode a motorcycle with no motorcycle experience, but I knew how to ride a bicycle and I knew how to drive a car. So I knew the rules of the road and I was expected to operate safely. Would I suggest that everybody take a course, professionally taught course? Yeah, I would. That's the best thing. But if you think about the difference between an M1 and a G1, one requires supervision, and one, that supervisor would have a heart attack. It's unsafe. I was very fortunate. I told the story before. Very shortly after buying that motorcycle, which I did, I had ridden dirt bikes. I had some level of experience, but never really rode a motorcycle on the road. I was fortunate to meet a driving or riding instructor at a gas station, and he says, "Let me take you to the park and show you some stuff." I didn't know anything about push turning. I knew nothing about that. It was a big eye-opener. But you know what? I took a professional course to really change the way that I rode for the better.
John, I had a motorcycle license before I had a car license. You have to learn somehow. You have to get experience somehow. And if you haven't ridden other, motorcycle-type vehicles prior to that, how else are you going to get it?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, sometimes when you get a motorcycle license first, you have to know all the rules of the road as well as getting proficient on your motorcycle. I too took a motorcycle course, but I was very experienced in riding. I was actually a very good rider. I did racing previous to that, and I still took the course, and I still learned on the course. And one thing I did learn is push steering. And
it's counterintuitive. Push in the direction you want to go to make it go. Because you grow up thinking that you lean to turn. You don't lean to turn. That is not the way it works.
Well, the push causes the bike to lean by itself,
but
making you turn.
But one is where you tell the bike what to do. The other one's when you ask the bike what to do. It's a very different thing. Let's see here. Can you remind people that if they need to stop on a road to use their hazard lights, not their turn signals? Hazard lights should also not be just willing. People misuse those lights a lot.
It's got to be a hazard. You must have, you shouldn't be creating any hazards. But if you get the opportunity where you end up in a hazardous situation, then yes.
So when it starts to sprinkle rain, I see people turning them on. When it gets dark out, people do some really strange things with hazard lights that are not appropriate use. Is it against the law? No. Is it really not the best way to use them? Yeah.
It's kind of like a service truck or a tow truck driving around with the flashing lights on the top when they're just driving around with a tow in the car.
And more often than not, it's because they forgot.
I've been guilty of that as well, unfortunately.
Some people turn their microphones down and forget to turn them up, but things happen. What is this? Why don't you report when collision was caused by you using phone? DUIs are reported. I'm not sure what you're asking here, because if a collision was reported with witnesses saying that the driver was using their cell phone, then that becomes part of the statement of the witness, and absolutely.
And it goes on a collision report. There's coding boxes that are tracked, and if the driver's distracted, that is one of the coding boxes that the ministry is aware of.
And studies have shown that distraction make up the majority of collisions. Now, not distracted necessarily by way of cell phone, but distracted as in not paying attention, daydreaming. There's so many things that drivers have admitted to when questioned that have gone into the study that suggest that any level of distraction is part of. Think about it. If you're paying attention, you're probably not going to hit the car in front of you. But it's that momentary not paying attention, which then, is it careless? Is it where does it fall into? Which is why so many times when you rear end somebody, it's careless, because you didn't respond to the cues of what's happening in front of you. So yeah, they do find their way into that. What do we do? Okay, wait.
Okay, I'm waiting.
Okay. Oh, can cop pull plates of your car for nonsense, like different color due to wrap? So if you fail to apply or change your permit, apply for an updated permit for your motor vehicle because you changed the color, is that an offense that you can pull a license plate for? I don't think so. If everything else lines up, it's an offense for failing to apply for a new permit and notify the change. You pull plates for unsafe vehicles. You pull plates for other things. Now, mind you, if you refuse, could you stop the offense from the continuation of the offense because someone refuses to make changes and is unlawfully driving the vehicle long term with a history?
You'd have to have a very good history, documented history, and to be able to do it to prevent the continuation of the offense.
But potentially, it's possible. It's not a normal thing. So to answer the question, it's not something I would do.
No, not without some
backup.
So the answer is depends, and it depends on the situation.
Yeah,
but it's a long stretch.
Yeah, there's very specific things that we take license plates for. Unsafe vehicle being the number one of them, and a wrap, changing the color is probably not qualifying for that. Just saying. Okay, how old and how much must you weigh to get out of a booster seat? According to the HTA, you must be any one of these three: 8 years old, 80 pounds, or 4'9" in height. Those are any one of those three requirements get you out of a booster seat, allowing you to sit at a seatbelt with a seatbelt alone. Is that necessarily the best thing? If you go to SIPSAC, which is I don't know what it's called. Let me go to SIPSAC, which I think I have here. Hey, it's SIPSAC, which I will read to you. So they're called they just have their initials. Why don't they have the Canadian? What is it? About Us. Oh, Child Passenger Safety. Yes, Association of Canada. Haha, it was there, but it was not obvious. If you ask them, they have a 5-point checklist of things you should do to make sure that it is safe for your child. Because you may have a child who is 8 years old, but quite small. They may not be a good candidate of coming out. Legal, yes. Good idea, no. You may have someone who is heavy but short. You may have someone who is just because you meet one of them doesn't mean it's the safest. I'm going to change channels now and move on to something else because I've beaten this one up. If you get charged for a DUI on your G1, when can you get your license back and fine? So if you're charged for you started off on the wrong foot if you've got a G1 and you're getting an impaired driving charge.
Absolutely. And somebody who is supervising you is letting you do this, that's craziness.
Yeah, there should be a good charge for them too, but chances are they were DUI as well, and they have to be under 0.05 BAC blood alcohol content in order to supervise you to actually be qualified. So let's say you get a 90-day suspension, and I don't know if there's additional suspensions for you because you were Well, let's assume that you're going to get a 30-day suspension on your first offense just for violating the having any blood alcohol content. And then additionally, there's going to be, if you're actually charged criminally, you're going to have a 90-day suspension. And that's before you get convicted, where you get additional suspensions. So it really depends on where you are in the process. So there's a 30-day, 90-day, and then getting kicked out of the G1 process or the graduated process. Then there's the side of the road suspension for the impaired. So there's a whole bunch. So obviously, when all of those suspensions have expired, then you'd be able to apply for your reinstatement. And they would tell you, you're too early, come back later if you're not eligible.
I don't think I've ever seen a G1 driver that had to have an ignition interlock installed.
That would be very interesting.
Yes.
That would not be a pride moment.
Because that's, even if you get your driver's license back again.
After
with
conviction.
With the provisional condition that you have an ignition interlock, I don't know.
Let us know how it goes. We'd be curious to know how your future unrolls, if you have in fact been charged. Is there any penalty to making a false DUI call to 911? It's happened to me and my friends before. So false, or see, here's the thing. Is it because your driving behavior is so bloody bad that people think you're drunk? That would not be false. That would be you have a bad driver who people have fear for the community, and they're making a legitimate call to protect the community because they're worried for your safety and the safety of others. That's not false. That just means that you weren't drunk. Maybe you were distracted. Maybe you had other things. That's a legitimate call. If someone's harassing you by making calls every time they see you or just randomly, that's different. That could be a misusing 911 services, and there could be charges laid against them.
Sean, it's happened to me. I had the opportunity to phone a friend. Had to call the OPP because of the car I was following. I would have sworn, absolutely sworn, that they were impaired. Stopped? Nope. Dark night, bad eyesight, couldn't keep it on the road, weaving all over the place. We did stop the driver. They didn't get charged, but the driver made some alternate arrangements to be able to drive safely on the way home. Somebody else came and drove this nice lady's car home for her.
Well, that's good. It's good that there was a solution. I have seen so many fatigued drivers, distracted drivers, people having medical events, that are complications. They should not be driving. Would I have assumed that was an impaired driver? Absolutely. And I would be in the absolute right for making that call to report them, and as would you. In fact, if you're calling police to report an impaired driver, calling for an emergency, which that qualifies as, you can use your cell phone. It's still better to be on a Bluetooth or hands-free device. But if you had to, because we're, again, public safety, you can pick up your phone. You're exempt for that purpose.
Yeah, there is an exemption for calling emergency services while you're operating a car.
And thankfully, because if you need help, you need help. If there's a divided road, boulevard, and the school bus stops on the other side of the boulevard, do I have to stop? So if it's a divided highway with that boulevard, as you said, a concrete barrier, a piece of grass, something that divides left and right or north and south, east and west, no, you don't. You can continue through. Same as for emergency vehicles, police, fire, ambulance. If we're coming the other way, there's a divided highway. You're not expected to stop on the opposite direction. However, if it's an undivided highway where it's just a painted line dividing the opposing directions of traffic, then you do have to pull over and you do have to stop, and you cannot pass a school bus oncoming or from behind if they're fully active. And we have new school bus rules, things that might look different but are not really that they're not that different that we need to do a whole campaign, but I figure since we're talking about it, we'll talk about it. School buses are now having two stages of lights. We start off with, let's go back historically. We used to have flashing red and then flashing red, and then a stop sign came out. There were a whole bunch of things that worked there. If the vehicle was in motion and the flashing lights above were on, you were still able to pass it. When it came to a stop, you were no longer able to pass it, and then the stop sign would come out, and obviously that was just a reinforcement. The new rules in Ontario are that while the bus is in motion, warning you that it's about to stop, flashing orange lights, stage 1, will come on. After the flashing orange lights come on and the vehicle comes to a complete stop, that will turn into flashing red lights and the stop sign will come out, at which point you cannot stop or cannot follow them. You must stop. Things to note, just things will look a little different, so be prepared. Changes on the road.
Enforcement of those?
Significant.
Cameras?
Oh, yes, the cameras is a whole separate thing. Are those in place on all buses now?
I don't know. I'm assuming so.
Well, here's the deal. You can be. We've seen far too many people, and the risk is so high when we're trying to protect our vulnerable road users, our kids, the most vulnerable of the vulnerable. People choose to just drive past them. Now, how do we catch them? We can't be everywhere all the time. school buses are going to be outfitted, if they haven't all been outfitted already, with camera systems that will catch you as you pass a school bus when it's stopped. And guess what? Tickets can be issued based on that. Amazing, the technology we have. And that's actually a really big one I'm very, very happy about.
Yeah. You know what? Quite honestly, keep people safe, once again.
Yeah. And if you don't break the rules, you'll never see a ticket. At least not from that. If I'm driving a friend's car and I get a ticket, does it affect him as well? So if it's a moving violation, it affects the driver. If it's a ticket that's issued against the vehicle, it's going to be the owner. So it depends on what you're talking about. But if you get pulled over by a police officer and you get charged by a police officer, it's you, the driver, who's going to be impacted. If you involve their vehicle in a collision, that's going to unfortunately involve their insurance. So then that will impact them.
And if they fail to report it, it is an owner liability offense as well. So the owner of the vehicle can be charged with not reporting.
I like it. People need to be responsible. Take responsibility. It's a big thing.
What? Photo red light, photo radar, all that. It's a vehicle owner liability offense.
We have some good stuff here that came in. Can you go to jail for stunt driving? Bum, bum, bum. The answer is, on conviction, you can be charged for convicted of a number of things with different penalties. There's a range of dollar amounts and based on the number of times you've been convicted. And yes, they can send you to up to 6 months in jail.
You know what? It's an arrestable offense at roadside as well, depending on the circumstances. So,
yeah, it's a good thing. Stunt driving is behavior that is so egregious. It is so outside of the normal travel and driving that we need serious penalties for it. And many people don't take it seriously. So how do you make people take it seriously? You put them in the slammer.
And you need to stop right now. It can't continue.
Yeah.
So that's why you lose your car. You lose your driver's license.
So, and for those who don't know, as of September 12th, 2021, almost 1 year ago, they increased the impact in that roadside suspension went from 7 days to 30 days. The impound of a vehicle went from 7 days to 14 days. And I imagine if people don't get the hint, it'll probably go up again. Because that's what you look at cell phones. It went up in a number of stages, a number of bumps. So you decide the fate of the people by how behavior goes. You know, if it continues to be a big issue, it'll no doubt change again. Justin says, your show has had a positive influence on driving discussions with my kids who are just beginning driving in BC. Wow, we're interprovincial.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Well, you know, our goal is all about education, obviously, because we're an educational channel, but it's all about getting people to have positive and meaningful conversations, because that's what we hope to do every day. So thank you so much. We love the feedback. It means a lot, it really does. We have, how often do police officers have to go to court to defend their tickets? That's Hearbot who's asking that. And the answer is whenever they're called to. It depends. There's no specific. If someone chooses to dispute a ticket, we get notified by the court. We're obligated to attend, and that's how it works. So it all depends. What do we got here? How about if it's a new car and it was sold certified without a front plate? Okay. Plates are issued by the ministry, not by the person you're buying it from. So you'd be issued 2 plates from the ministry, and you'd be obligated to install and display both of them properly, not behind the windshield.
And you know what? If you bought a new car and the dealer didn't put a plate on for you, there's another plate associated to you and your vehicle floating around somewhere that somebody else can use.
That's a bad thing.
2 plates. You must have them both, and they must be displayed front and back.
Here's a great...
Take your car back.
Yeah. I would also report that dealer to the Dealers Association. They're setting you up for a fail. They're setting you up for a ticket. This is a great one. Can we stand while the car is running with sunroof open, and can we get charged for that? So just to put that into perspective, this is a situation in a limo where you have people doing the surfing down the road with their hands up, or sticking their bodies out the passenger windows, not just the sunroof. Yeah, it's against the law, but why is it against the law?
I wonder how you're going to get your seatbelt on if you're standing out the sunroof.
You're not wearing your seatbelt. Yeah, that's the issue. It's a seatbelt offense. Now, I would love to. Could it also be endangering somebody? Could it be dangerous? If you're on the highway standing outside as a driver doing something dangerous, I wonder if there's anything else that could be. And that's a discussion, not a definitive statement. But I would be very concerned about the driver who's allowing this to occur in their vehicle. Just saying. Maybe they shouldn't be driving. Maybe there's something else at work. Maybe they've been partying. Maybe they're impaired. I don't know. Just thoughts. What do we have here? Can I park in front of a fire hydrant if my hazards are on and I'm in the vehicle? I wish Aaron was here to answer that question, but I'm going to go so far as to say no, because no. But you can move. That's that. Are you stopping? Are you allowed to pick up and drive? Fire hydrants are very specific. I imagine you get slapped with a ticket. Now, I am not a parking enforcement officer, and although I have the authority to issue those tickets, I am by no means an aficionado of all the rules for parking.
John, your hazard lights don't exempt you from anything. Your hazard lights are there to warn other drivers that you unfortunately put yourself into a hazardous situation that you can't remedy. If you're doing it, like stopping on the side so you can run and get your coffee, something like that.
Well, that's parking.
Well, you know what? For me, when people do that, that's just a clue for me to go out and do some enforcement. My attention is drawn to you when you're there and you put your hazard lights on for doing something that you're not supposed to do. I would enforce that for sure.
I don't disagree. I just wish Erin was here to give us the definitive parking response, because she's got, maybe she'll make a video about it. But yeah, there are so many alternative options. There's no good reason to be in front of a fire hydrant. If you're saying you're in the car, and that was the question, if I'm in the car, hazards mean nothing, and I would still imagine that you get a ticket. Now, listen, if an officer's
your car,
there,
move it.
Well, that's it. If an officer's there, they'd probably just move you or ask you to move, and then maybe they give you that opportunity, or maybe they just say no. Like fire routes, other things that generally there's no warnings for. Okay. Oh, there's two good ones. We talked about this before. We'll talk about it again. What if you're at the lights more than 20 minutes? Can I go through the light then? No. You're never allowed to go through a red light, even if it's malfunctioning. Make the right turn. Make a U-turn where it's legal. Do the safe thing. Don't go through the red light. Because guess what? That one time you do it, you're going to get stopped. And that one time you do it, you're probably going to end up in a collision. I've never heard of a set of lights that just never changes.
No, I don't think there's any in the province that are set.
They're usually done based on time. And the time is way less than 20 minutes.
Yeah.
If you know what? Try repositioning your vehicle. If you're really, you got 20 minutes, try moving it around.
You know what? There are sensors in the road. Most intersections have it, especially for ones that have a long duration, one direction, and they usually act pretty quickly.
Yeah, and there are. I've been in situations, especially on a motorcycle, where there's been issues. But never does it justify going through. And in some states, they have 8 minutes or 5 minutes, whatever they determine is the length of time for malfunction. I would obviously call the municipality that you're in to say, hey, there's an issue, but never do you go through.
You know what? There's a bridge that's being worked on up near my cottage, and there's only one light of traffic getting through, so they have traffic lights on either side. They are really, really, really excessively long.
Oh, no.
And I can see there's no cars coming. I can see there's nobody else around. Can I go through it? No.
Yeah.
Do I have to wait? Yeah.
It's annoying, but it is what it is. Can I refuse a field sobriety test and opt for a breathalyzer, or does it count as a fail? So when a demand is made, it's not a conditional, would you like your choice of options? They also do different things. Field sobriety also includes drugs where breathalyzer is specifically for alcohol. So you are obligated to perform the test as the demand is made, and if you refuse, you would be charged criminally for refuse.
And the penalty for that would be exactly the same as if you had failed with the same sanctions.
What is this? Whoops, pressed enter by mistake. Does TPS have tools to help people, i.e. whose cars run out of gas? Tow companies do. Toronto Police does not carry jerry cans of gas for people who have run out of gas.
We have a couple of companies within the City of Toronto that have an agreement with the Toronto Police Service, and they will respond to us expeditiously to come, especially if there's a hazard and you've run out of gas on the side of the road. You have to pay for it. It's not free, but
Beats walking.
We can get a tow truck there quickly to help service.
So we can
and take
phone
you
a
out of
friend.
danger.
We can phone a friend. And tows are an option that we can facilitate. You'd still be responsible for the costs, but yeah. Okay, here's a question, and we're running out of time. It's 11 o'clock. We've got a couple more questions we'll answer, and then we'll go. So Akela says we do have in the City of Toronto, and he might have a connection to possibly working in relation to the city. We do have some lights that are fully actuated, and the loop gets broken. The light doesn't change. So there you have it. Sometimes things get broken.
Yep, you're right. I don't know if it would stay permanently on one direction or not, but I'm not an expert on it.
But you still don't go through it. You have to make the right. You have to take the legal options to make it work. What is this? Okay, another one here. Hi, sir. How many car collisions happening every year? Also, how many happen with left turn? I don't have those stats. I know that we had somewhere in the vicinity. I had stats up earlier when the chief was here, and let me see if I can find it. There are some numbers. I have some
I
numbers.
don't know if there's total collision numbers there, but
No, I don't know. I'm going to see if I can find them quickly for you, and if I can, great. If I can't, we'll come back to it. So motor vehicle. So this year, as of yesterday, 35,215 motor vehicle collisions were reported, and that's yeah. I've got some other numbers, but I don't know about left turns or right turns or what the story is. It's not that specific, but that's a lot of charges, a lot of events, I should say. 35,215. What is the safest way of recording a police officer during their interaction with the public? Being out of their way. If you're the person being interacted with, you better off you're focusing on with the task at hand because you're complying with the officer's directions. But are you legally allowed to film a police officer in public? Sure. Just don't interfere with their investigation. And if they ask you to get out of the way or move back, get out of the way and move back. Things tend to go sideways often. And if you are not involved in that situation and become involved in it, you might get hurt. And really the reason we want you to move out of the way is not to stop you from recording, but to keep you safe. And not take an officer's focus away from what they're dealing with. Because that's dangerous for the officer, for the people that are involved with it. It's just a safe distance. Get a zoom lens.
the silent head nod in agreement.
Yes. Do you know any car laws in Brantford, such as performance, exhaust, muffler, deletes, etc.? Brantford?
I think we have a Brantford here.
And Bradford.
We have a Bradford.
But what's Brantford?
I don't know.
I don't know that either. Where are you? The thing is, Ontario as a whole has the same laws for stuff like this. They're provincial laws, the entire province, not a Toronto law. We may have bylaws in addition to that, but I don't know anything about a local municipal bylaw that would affect you and wherever you are. But if you're in the province of Ontario, the rules are the same, at least from the Highway Traffic Act perspective. Okay. Can you talk about right-hand turn beside bike lanes? So many move into the bike lane to turn. Depends on the bike lane. If there is a dotted line, a hash mark, and in that green box, even if the green box is not there, but there is a hash line, well, that is to say that vehicles should pinch the lane. And then they can pinch the lane so that cyclists can pass them on the left safely. If they don't use that and they stay and make the wide turn, or if the line is solid till the end, then a cyclist is someone they have to yield to for their safety. They are responsible for the movement of their vehicle. A cyclist does have the right of way in that situation. In the turn, their right-hand turn cannot. It must yield. It cannot interfere with the cyclist. So they have to look over their shoulder. They have to do a shoulder check in the other direction, which is something that many people don't know how to do, sadly. With that, this brings the end to another exciting episode of Ask a Traffic Cop. We'll be back tomorrow morning. We'll do it at 10 o'clock. We'll get that extra hour of prep time. I can sleep in. No, I can't sleep in. I'm here at 6 in the morning. It doesn't matter. We'll carry the conversation on. If you asked questions and we didn't get to you, I do apologize. We will try and pick it up tomorrow. And if you want to ask us questions in the meantime, feel free to drop by our volley space. That is trafficcop.ca. It's the forwarding link to take you to our volley space. It is a free app. You can actually, it's free to go by way of web HTML. You can get the app on Android, on the Apple Store, for the computers, or even in other places. What's it called? Windows. Windows is a Windows version. In any case, you can ask us questions, interact with us there all the time. Leave comments and questions, Q&A, whatever you want. See you tomorrow. I'll hit the button because I love the song.
Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely helps the traffic flow. Watch for pedestrians, look out for bikes, and don't drive like a jerk that no one likes. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely is the way to go. Put down your cell phone, nobody needs you to text and drive on the DVP. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Stop at stop signs, look both ways, then go. Seatbelt, save your life indeed, and watch your driving, don't speed. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely is the way to go. Don't drink and drive or smoke some weed, because you might go to jail and not get free. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely helps the traffic flow.
Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6,